My views on voting in general and specifically have been formed over my lifetime and not by any particular election, and certainly not because of just now. Although I recognize just now is one of those times that um, we we aspire to provide the kind of leadership and input to have impact because of the challenges that we face universally. But I can recall being involved in voting first at the age of 8 in 1960 when my father was out campaigning for then Senator John Kennedy, who was running for president of the United States. I have 10 siblings, and we grew up in the church, so we always formed a team, a choir, football, whatever. In that, we didn't deal in gangs, but if you fought one of us, you had to fight all of us, and we couldn't fight each other. My parents got married young, so they grew up in the civil rights movement also. They got married my mom was 16, she had 15 children. I'm one of the 11 surviving children. And so through my parents' activism and involvement throughout my life, being Cub Scout leaders and den parents and the parent on the Little Gritters or little league baseball team, and coming to PTAs and basically being involved in our life and engaging us in that growing up process taught us about politics. Everything is political, and always being engaged in voting. And so I've been able to work across the country, attended many national conventions as a student. I went to my first national convention, which was in Miami, Florida in 1972. I attended the second Black National Convention in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was a delegate to the Democratic National Committee in 1996 in Chicago, and in 2000 in Los Angeles, and in 2008 in Denver. And so I have a degree in political science from the oldest institution founded for African Americans by the Quakers in 1837, Cheney State University. So voting is a part of my DNA. And it is not only something that I've aspired to have an impact on the people's lives that look like me, and that, but I also recognize how vital it is because of the price that's been paid by so many people, and that the only people that I know who have been lynched and burned and arrested and beaten and ostracized and fired and almost anything that you can think of, and that to deny us poll tax, grandfather clause, literacy test, white primaries. I mean, any tool that you think that they could come up with, they have. So we've paid the biggest price for the right to vote in this country, and we've got the least out of it. And that we've received the least of anyone from the vote. And yet here it is in 2020 that the democracy, that the American dream is literally in the hands of the people who paid the most and got the least. How we vote or how we participate will indicate which way our country's future goes, with the direction of our country's future. And so I vote, and I teach voting, and I've voted since I was 19. I was 18 when they passed the law lowering the age from 21 to 18 in the midst of the Vietnam War, to give 18-year-olds who at that time were the most, paying the biggest sacrifice in a war in a country, trying to establish somebody else's right to vote. and we didn't have it. And so while I was 18, the laws of America were amended or changed in order to bring 18-year-olds the right to vote. And I have voted every election since then. And for the last 28 years or 27 years, I've taken children from our area of all stripes, all schools, private, charter, public, Catholic, to what we call a Walking in Black History trip, where we've gone from Erie to Selma, uh, to Birmingham, to Montgomery, to Tuskegee, Alabama. We've gone to the Rosa Parks Museum. We walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge every year. How could you not be committed to the whole idea of voting, walking over that bridge for 27 years in the rain, in the sun, constantly reminded of the sacrifices that people paid forward, traveling up the Selma to Montgomery Trail and staying at the Gardner property at the Canaan Hill Baptist Church, where Viola Luiso and others stayed overnight on their journey from Selma to Montgomery, and that to know that people lost their life on that road, and to visit Viola Luiso's monument that was created by the Southern Christian Leadership Council, women, and that women committed to it. And so, just those things have been a constant reminder to me, and that why I cannot abandon the idea of voting and how important it is. And so I've been able to try to instill that in everyone, and in particular people of color. And so while I have a degree in political science, and while I've run for office, and I've worked in the mayor's office of our city for 10 years as a special assistant to the mayor, the only African American and the only man in the mayor's office for 10 years. I was elected to 2 terms to the Board of Education in Erie, winning my first race by 118 votes. And so I again realized my brother today, County Councilman Andre Horton, serves as the chairman of the county legislative body, the only Black elected to county government in over 200 years. And I've seen his impact on policy, having helping Erie lead the way for Erie, Pennsylvania to get its a community college, so that poor people would have access to a low-cost quality education, something that the people in this city have been fighting for 40 years. And the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania had not chartered a new community college in 27 years. So I've seen the impact of his policy making. He won his seat by 10 votes. By 10 votes. And so I have real life opportunity and experience, and that I can share with people about the importance of voting in the past and recognizing how vital it is today. There's great debate in our community about which way we should be voting or who should we be voting on. And to date, all my activity has been nonpartisan, has been to in this election has been nonpartisan, and that to educate people and inform people and encourage people and motivate people to vote using some of that history of why we should vote. Young people have some view of, it's not worth it. People who have a challenge history with government or society may have a view of why vote. People who have participated in the process and got their hopes and aspirations and dreams of year after year, candidate after candidate, and received nothing out of it and see no change. Some of them are challenged, why vote? And so, I can respect another person's opinion about raising that question, but the sacrifice that people have made and the opportunity of the hope of what we can gain and accomplish far outweigh any of those reasons not to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this election, I'm hoping, well, not hoping, I plan to employ over 200 people on election day to get them to invest in themselves on election day, to get people out to vote in our neighborhoods. And that we've been calling people and canvassing neighborhoods and picking up ideas from other neighborhoods and communities across the state and networking with people that are like-minded so that we could show our people, those of them who want to listen, who want to believe, who want to do, and that don't be persuaded by the negative voices that depress you and cause you to quit. They to them be their way, to us be ours. I believe that just like God, and so many times in the past in the Bible, and that I believe that there's a spiritual context to the time that we're in today. And I've been taught that God's word is real and that I can see it as clear as day, even today. That when I look at some of the personalities of people, I see David facing a bully who constantly called out God's people. As the young people say, he punked them down,
Mm-hmm.
and that they were afraid of what they saw until along came God's anointed David, and he put a vote in his slingshot, and he hit the giant right between the eyes with a vote. You know, some people may see it as a shiny stone, or 3 small stones, or 5 smooth stones. But in the spiritual context for me today, in that slingshot are votes that we have to put our vote together in our neighborhood. Not just the super voters, the people who vote every year, who vote all the time, and that, but the underperforming voter, and that who has been disappointed or discouraged, who's looking for leadership. Let's put our votes in that slingshot. I believe we can take down the giant. And then the first lesson was with Moses, when God told Moses, go down and tell Pharaoh, tell big government, big business, tell big whatever to let the people go. Get their foot off their neck, and that give them a living wage, and that they should give them access to no cost quality health care, and that they should have an opportunity for a job if they're capable and able to work, houses, decent homes to live in, not to be subjected to redlining and other unfair and discriminatory, and in some cases, illegal practices against them. And so, but God, while he told Moses to go down there and tell the government, the representative of the government, to let the people go, he said he ain't gonna do it. He's not gonna do it because I'm a harden his heart. And that is what I learned, that God said he was gonna harden his heart. But he said in the end, he gonna let the people go. And that he gonna let them go with an open hand. And here we are, in a spiritual time, that the power is in our hands if we believe. We paid too much to go back now. We've come too far to go back now. We paid too much to just, Dr. King talked about cashing in on, here it is. And
Well,
that now ain't the time to quit.
well, that's the next question I want to ask you is the conversation about leveraging the vote. That was one of the most asked question on social media. Prior to the vote, we've had people like Ice Cube and some others talking about Roland Martin leveraging voting. Post this election, what can African Americans do to leverage their votes going forward?
Well, the first thing they got to do, as we've talked about for 15 minutes, is they got to vote in
Mm-hmm.
that, or there's nothing that they'll have missed the greatest opportunity. And then after voting, these collaborations that we've formed, uh, the access and independent support of ourselves and our own organizations, and what Black Lives Matter or Black Vote Matter, and with the NAACP, with the different ecumenical groups have been doing, and that to provide nonpartisan monies and support and financial support, investing in people, and that we have to continue that. And then we have to not just look to what is owed to us by the government and what we pay in and leverage, but we have to look to our own too. And that because there are many of us who live a lot better than most of us. And of course, those many that don't outnumber the most, in many cases, have a different view, as we've heard from Kanye West and Ice Cube and others. But then there are people out there like Common and like Meek Mills and like LeBron James and like Kayla McBride and others and that have a different view. They're investing in our community. They're investing in our young people. They're investing in education. They're focused on building wealth and that. So we've got to match our economic power as an opportunity with our political power. And that in many cases, they go hand in hand. So we've got to continue that. We can't act like, okay, November 4th, back to business or back to everything usual, back to the status quo. No, we have to keep leaning forward and keep pressing forward. And that we have to listen more to our young people who want to be engaged. And that many of them involved in protests across the country today. And that about the senseless killing of young Black men who have no weapons, and young Black women, and that unjustifiably, and so that issue will not go away on November the 3rd, and matter of fact, where Breonna Taylor's situation was, where the district attorney is an elected position, and his seat comes back up at some time. So we have to continue that kind of work across the country in those cities and communities where we live. Again, we can't just look to others with our hand out. We're not beggars. We're the descendants of kings and queens. And if we look across America at the progress that this country has built, we've paid as much, if not more, invested in that as anyone. We can keep our head up and our back straight and demand but at the same time we can organize and unify and work better together and continue to remember that God ain't bring us over 450 years through what we've come through in this country to abandon us now. And so it's pretty much back in our ball court. And what kind of life we want to live, what kind of hope we want to have for our children, and that's why we have to continue post November 3rd, some of the activities and collaborations and relationships and networks that have been created in the challenge of this pandemic and the election.
Excellent. You talked about quickly, and I'm not going to hold your day, some of the programs that you do yearly. How can someone in that area get in contact with you? And I just want you to speak about that portion.
Well, in our area, I've been blessed to serve people from all over the world. I call them New Americans. They came here as former refugees. They speak many different languages. They have many different cultures and religions. And they've taught me who I am. They've reinforced who I am as an African who's been displaced in America. But we didn't originate here. And then they've taught me to have pride in who I am. And I see the difference in a lot of African Americans who still don't recognize that or believe that. But those new Americans who come to me from Tanzania and the Congo and Uganda and Liberia and Eritrea and Rwanda and Burundi and Somalia and Kenya and Liberia, as well as Nepal and Vietnam and Puerto Rico and other places, and that they've taught me something, and that God put me in a position to help them serve themselves. They've taught me because they grow food and they make clothes and they don't beg, and that they've taught me something even in the midst of this pandemic, that they understand disease and they recognize when the government say like shelter and that. And so to some degree, they've been able, although they're the most vulnerable in our community, they've been able to survive and stay ahead of the curve of that dangerous health pandemic that has hit us. Of course, economically, we're still on the bottom. And although we're not beggars, we do take contributions, and that we're a 501c3, and that I also serve as the president of the local branch of the NAACP, as most people know, is not a paid job. And that and the work and the needs of the community of that are full time, and that but we still have to provide services for the people. So the nonprofit of the Urban Erie Community Development Corporation allows me the means to be able to do that. And so I run education programs in the form of GED, in forms of language classes, after school programs for kids, leadership development programs for kids, the Walking in Black History journey that we've taken for 27 years. And by the way, since we couldn't take it this year, we did this, we did Zooms, we did it virtually, and that because we've convinced, and that, but if you don't know who you are, where you come from, and that you stuck in trying to figure out who you are, where you going, and that many people have said that in many different ways, and that, but you've got to apply yourself, and that to find out who you are, that God didn't mean us to be on the bottom and to stay on the bottom, and that, and he didn't make us beggars, and that, so for those who want to contribute to our cause, they can do so at the Urban Erie Community Development Corporation, 2046 East 19th Street, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16510. I am Gary Horton, the director of that agency, and I can be reached. We have a Facebook page, we have a website, uecdc.org. We have a Walking in Black History page and website, and we'll take any prayers or resources that will allow us to leverage people continuing to help themselves. And with that, I thank you so much for the opportunity
Thank you
to
so much.
share, and it's been a privilege.